Hello everyone, my name is Kathy Loughlin and this is my colleague Simon McKee from the Operational Excellence team at InvestNI. Thank you for participating on our webinar today. The presentation will run for around 28 minutes, then we'll move on to our Q&A session. If you would like to submit a question, please do so by using the chat function on screen. Thank you.
Welcome to the Toyota Kata webinar, which is designed to give you an overview of the Toyota Kata for learners and coaches. My name is Simon McKee. I'm a member of the Operational Excellence team within Invest Northern Ireland. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way we go about transforming our products and services. There are now additional challenges, such as social distancing, for example, which all adds to the challenges and stress facing businesses. The aim of this webinar is to investigate an alternative way of thinking and managing that will change mindsets and give you the confidence to navigate any challenge. Kata originated in martial arts. They are structured routines and patterns of behavior. Whether in martial arts or business, Kata is a methodology that uses repeated, consistent practice and scientific thinking to achieve goals. There are a number of benefits to adopting Kata within any organization. Firstly, aligning the organization through Kata by creating a shared purpose and developing a common language for continuous improvement will help change the culture. In addition, developing scientific thinking skills will ensure we are not jumping to conclusions and have evidence to help remove obstacles and achieve challenging goals. Today's agenda. We will introduce an alternative way to look at business challenges, orientate ourselves with some key Kata definitions. Next, why do problems and obstacles keep coming back? Something I would suspect that is close to everyone listening today. Then, could a different approach work? I'm going to introduce the age-old concept of scientific thinking. We'll then cover the phases of the improvement and coaching Kata. We complete a deeper dive into steps 1 to 4 of the improvement Kata, and then a worked example to show the power of this methodology. To close the loop on Kata, we will see how the coaching Kata is the glue that holds it all together, and why not having a coach will reduce the chances of sustainable continuous improvement. And at the end, a summary of what we have covered throughout the webinar. We're all familiar with the old business challenges we have encountered when trying to satisfy customer demand, late deliveries, inefficient processes, and a culture not willing to engage in continuous improvement. Now, to add to those challenges, we have been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. This means you need to rethink how you approach challenges within your business. And there most definitely is a feeling of uncertainty regarding the way ahead, and those feelings need resolved. The information presented is based on the work completed by Mike Rother in the Toyota Kata Practice Guide. Some of you may already have heard of Mike or read his books. For example, Learning to See, which was published in 1999 and explains how to map your value stream and remove wasteful activities. Mike's thoughts on Kata. I believe that scientific thinking patterns of improvement and coaching Kata, if practiced daily, will help us beat past and future issues within the business. The improvement Kata and coaching Kata will not make your team more certain about how to reach a goal, but it will give you a method of getting there with more certainty. Although learning new skills is not easy, it is quite amazing what you can achieve by practicing a practical form of scientific thinking on a daily basis. The more scientific thinking capability you can develop in your teams, the more you can empower them to meet the challenges they are currently facing and ultimately move away from the firefighting approach we are familiar with and deliver superior results. In addition, managers play a key role in this because it's their job to create the creators. The workplace may be the largest classroom of all, and its managers are the teachers. If we are to transfer the culture to one of continuous improvement and learning, this webinar will be of interest to you. Key kata definitions. The improvement kata, a practical 4-step model of scientific thinking and acting for achieving challenging goals. The improvement kata includes practice routines for each step, for learning through practice how to work scientifically when you pursue goals in complex systems. The learner could be a team leader, supervisor, or manager, someone with a team focused on continuous improvement. The coaching kata is a pattern for teaching the improvement kata way of thinking and acting. The coaching kata includes practice routines for everyone who wants to teach the improvement kata. The coach, usually someone who has direct reports to coach. There are a number of benefits of practicing kata. They help beginners acquire a new skill by providing practice routine for learning the fundamentals. They give the coach a guide to help provide feedback to their team member on the process they're trying to improve. They help to develop a shared mode of thinking and acting across a team or organization by providing common routine for everyone's initial practice. This is the first step in transforming the way work has been done in the past. I suppose the central question, and something I would hear quite often working with business in Northern Ireland, why do problems and obstacles come back? So solutions to problems and obstacles that have not been properly tested and evaluated will come back. That's what we're saying. There is a tendency to solve problems quickly and not take the time to go to the work area and evaluate how well the solution solved the problem. Think, when was the last time you spent some time observing why the machine was down? Or when was the last time you went to the returns department and viewed the return good to see for yourself what would happen? My point, we have a tendency to rely on assumptions when filling in the blanks. Scientific thinking labels this the current threshold of knowledge. This can be explained as the point where you do not have observed facts and data to support your action. Unfortunately, there is a tendency to rely on third-party opinions of what went wrong. Think about the last time you were told the reason why something occurred and acted on that information, later to be told the information was incorrect. We've all been there. The solution here is to increase your knowledge about what occurred. Take the time to go and gather some real-time data about the problem and test your assumptions. This approach will deliver a better result and let your team see that resolving the issues properly is important to you and to them. Let's take a look at scientific thinking, so as an alternative method. This is a method that, if practiced regularly, will deliver superior results within your business. Scientific thinking in the context of kata is about deliberately observing the work with the intent of learning something new. Also, it's a method we can use to compare what we predict will happen if we conduct an experiment, then taking the time to think about the results and understanding what we have just learned. Those learnings will determine the next experiment, with each experiment taking us one step closer to achieving the result that we require. I will give you an example of how to apply scientific thinking during a weight loss program, something that I have used. The prediction is that I will lose 18 pounds within 6 weeks. We're making a prediction here. Breaking this down into something measurable will give me some more clarity. So I am currently 218 pounds. I say I would consume 2,700 calories a day and do not exercise. My prediction is that reducing my calories by 500 per day and walking for 60 minutes will reduce my weight by 3 pounds per week. So we've set our prediction out. So you go off and experiment. Start the weight loss program and record how many calories you eat and maintain a record of your daily exercise routine. The key to scientific thinking is the evaluation of the steps you have taken.
Did my prediction come true? Well, did I lose 3 pounds during my first week? Unfortunately, no, I only lost 2, so I was a pound short, and I have a record to prove that. Scientific thinking is an iterative cycle. We start the process again with a prediction based on what was learned. So what did I learn from the last experiment? So for the next week, I'm going to reduce my sugar intake because although I dropped 500 calories a day, there was still a lot of sugary stuff in my diet. Evaluation of the results showed after the second week that the reduction in sugar gave me a 4-pound loss. So I'm back on track. I have learned that eating too much sugar spikes your insulin levels and aids in fat conversion. Following this method until the target weight is achieved will help you learn about what works for you. Experimenting at the threshold of knowledge may not give you a result straight away, but learning what did not work will help you move forward. A key point, scientific thinking is not difficult. It's just not the way most of us currently approach problems. Taking the time to develop scientific thinking skills within the business will deliver superior results. Phases of the improvement and coaching kata. The development of the learner through daily practice routines and guided coaching will deliver superior process improvements. With the support of the coach, the learner will follow 4 key steps and record the findings at the learner's storyboard. This is a visual board placed in the learner's area. The learner displays the relevant information associated with the project they're working on here or the process improvement they're working on here. So just to break it down, the first 3 steps are all about the planning phase. So the first is about understanding the direction of challenge. Second, grasp the current condition. And the third is about establishing the next target condition. The final step is about executing the plan you have developed. This is called experimenting towards the target condition. These steps will be covered in more detail in the next few slides. Step 1, understand the direction of challenge. The first step of the improvement kata is about understanding the direction of the organization's challenge. These are the strategic objectives that drive competitive advantage. Once this has been defined at the leadership level, it gets broken down into smaller objectives for the value stream level and the process level. In the current climate, we are looking at challenges through a short-term lens, say 4 to 6 weeks. These challenges should be broken down into daily and weekly activities. The key here is to make them visual and review daily to ensure traction and progress. So an example of an organizational challenge might be same day, next day. Build the product the day the customer orders and ship the next day. There will be many activities across the business that needs to happen to achieve this strategic challenge. For example, the order entry process is critical. If the order is not on the system immediately, then the probability of having the order shipped the next day is lower, if none at all. During this step, the coach asks the learner at the learner storyboard to name their focus process and the challenge or goal they are working on. This part is about understanding. When the learner clarifies the challenge and can explain it to the coach, then they can move to the next step. The learner might say, in order to achieve next day delivery, I need to have the order on the system within 10 minutes of receipt. This shows alignment and understanding. Step 2, grasp the current condition. The second step of the improvement kata is about grasping the current condition at the process level. This step is about process analysis and about being able to communicate with facts and data how the process is currently performing. The process analysis emphasizes the need to understand what it is the team does to make the product or service. What activities, materials, and information do they use to get the job done, and how long it takes to do so. The key to a good process analysis is observing the process directly and for as long as it takes to understand what is actually happening. Write down your observations. Did the person have the information to do the job right first time, or did they have to ask their supervisor? Did the process require rework? So you're asking yourselves questions about the process through direct observation. There are 5 key steps in this kata, and following these will help you understand with facts and data how the process is performing currently. The first is complete a chart showing how many units the process produced daily and weekly for a few weeks if necessary. This information will allow you to calculate the customer demand rate and current cycle time of each unit. Study how the people, materials, and equipment, etc. interact through each cycle. This is critical for understanding what the current obstacles are. Next, check equipment capacity. Are there any equipment constraints? What are they? And lastly, calculate core work time. How many operators would be necessary if the process had no variation? Grasping the current condition through following the process analysis kata will help your team learn about how your process is performing over time. You observed, gathered facts and data, and removed the need to make assumptions. The next target condition will become obvious. It's the removal of an observed and measured obstacle. For example, this could be having the correct parts at the operating station 100% of the time. Step 3, establish the next target condition. The third step of the improvement kata will focus on planning the next target condition. A target condition is simply where you want to be next. There will be successive target conditions on the way to the challenge. However, only specify one at a time. In practice, the obstacles you found when analysing the process in the previous step will not be removed all in one go. You will focus on one at a time to learn which one delivered the desired improvement. There are 3 elements of a good next target condition. The when. This is when a target condition has a specified achieve by date, which is often between 1 week and anything up to 3 months out. Longer than that is often ineffective and should generally be broken down to smaller target conditions. That said, in the current climate, the challenge itself might be 6 weeks and the next target condition may be days. The what. This is the desired outcome performance, which is the outcome metric and where you want to be by the agreed date. This could be having the parts at the station 100% of the time and no downtime linked to sourcing those parts. And the how. How do you want the process to be operating by the agreed date? This could mean that a material handler or some other person will be tasked with making sure the parts were always available so the operator did not have to leave their station. Establishing the next target condition is your roadmap on how you will go about improving the process. Like any journey, it's important to have your team on board. Communication is critical to engaging your team in change. We've seen process improvement efforts fail due to poor communication. The thinking behind the kata is one of successive target conditions on the way to achieving the challenge, and therefore you need to communicate the plan and progress frequently, in reality, daily. The last step is focused on executing the plan. The purpose of this step is experimenting towards the next target condition. Focus on removing obstacles, one obstacle at a time. These are written down on the obstacles parking lot. We need to know if we were successful when we removed the obstacle. If we were trying to do too many at once, we cannot be certain which one contributed the most of all to the issue we are trying to solve. In this step, we use the experimenting record sheet. These can be sent to you on request. The record sheet follows the scientific thinking method we discussed earlier. First, identify the step you're going to take.
Add the date you intend to start, record what you predict will happen when you take this step. Then you conduct the experiment, making sure to record all the key facts, data, and observations. Lastly, fill in your results and what you've learned. You will never really know how many experiments you need to complete, but you will find that the learnings from the last experiment will give you information to adjust the next experiment and move closer to the desired target condition. The next slide has a worked example. We're going to go through a worked example of how to conduct an experiment using the experiment record sheet. This was an example presented by the keynote speaker, Jeff Kopinitz, at CataCon 4, an event hosted by Lean Frontiers. The focus process was the parts picking process, and John is the learner. The obstacle the team wanted to address was the presentation of material to the line and the accuracy of the stock in the racks. It was taking too long to get the parts line side. This affected production at the cell. In addition, the material handlers spent a lot of time and energy reaching and searching for parts. In the step and date box it reads, evaluate the picking process of the high volume parts for ABC product line by the 20th of June 2017. The learner then wrote their prediction of what he expected to happen. The prediction is that 20% of the ABC parts drives 80% of the picker's movement. Pickers are wasting time and energy unnecessarily. The prediction step must be completed before the experiment. Remember, thinking scientifically is about making a prediction and then evaluating it to learn something new. After experiment, he wrote the results and key learnings. The result of the experiment concluded that 161 picks allocated to ABC products. Pickers traveled over 1,600 steps, resulting in 196 picks with a time taken of 120 minutes. There were 16 empty locations in the racks, and a ladder was used 9 times to find a standard pump. These were all contributing factors to the overall time taken. Next, he filled in what he learned. The majority of the picks were allocated to the ABC family. However, there was no logical positioning of the parts and inventory accuracy was questionable. Also, there was excessive use of the ladder. Based on what John learned from the first experiment, this helped guide John to successive experiments. As we said at the start, you do one experiment at a time, remove one factor at a time, and the purpose and the aim of that is to ensure that you know how each factor contributed to the overall problem. You can look through the rest of these at your leisure. Case study observations, the picking process. John and the team also recorded their observations. What we have here are facts and data. 16 empty locations, the ladder been used 9 times to retrieve frequently used parts, how the parts were difficult to access, and the time it took to retrieve the parts. When John communicated the results of the experiments to the coach, he was able to clearly outline what the obstacles were. There were no assumptions. If you think about the discussion we had at the start regarding why the problems and obstacles always come back, this example illustrates the power of scientific thinking and the unnecessary reliance on using assumptions to solve problems. Coaching Kata. In order to develop daily routines and embed Kata, the coach will ask the learner 5 key questions. These questions are asked throughout the planning phase and the executing phase. These questions reinforce the scientific pattern of the improvement Kata and are prompts for the learner to show how they are currently thinking, so the coach can formulate feedback. The questions are, what is your target condition? What is the actual condition now, and what did you learn from taking the last step? What obstacles are preventing you from reaching the target condition, and which one are you addressing now? What is your next step, and what do you expect?
When can we go and see what we have learned from taking that step? The coach in most cases is the learner's immediate supervisor. The coach will ask a coaching question and then listen carefully to the learner's reply. The coach will compare the response given by the learner to the specified routine and then introduce an adjustment to the learner's practice if necessary. The coach is always looking for the knowledge of threshold, the point at which the learner clearly does not have enough facts and data. The learner will then be guided towards their next step. In most cases, this will be to complete a further process analysis to gather the necessary information. Once the learner has internalized the improvement kata and follows the daily routines consistently, then the coach-learner relationship will take on a different role. There will be less need for the coach to go through every question as proficiency increases. The coach will spend most of the time listening and only asking a few clarifying questions to ensure progress. Summary: the improvement kata mindset. During this webinar, we covered scientific thinking as an alternative way to develop people and solve complex problems within your organization. Scientific thinking is not a difficult process, but it does require practice and coaching to embed this way of solving problems. We are not programmed to write down a prediction of what we expect will happen when we take a problem-solving step. On the contrary, we are programmed to put out fires. Just go do and hope for the best. An iterative cycle of prediction, experiment, and evaluation will clearly develop your people and give you more confidence to navigate any challenge. Through kata, there is an opportunity for organizational alignment. There will be a sense that what is being worked on is important because it feeds up into the challenge that will give the organization competitive advantage. Surely that is beneficial in these challenging times. Will scientific thinking and kata change mindsets? The ideas presented today will not change mindsets in the beginning. In the beginning, there needs to be a shared purpose, a reason for introducing kata. This needs to come from the senior level within the organization. Once the senior team has seen the benefit of embedding those routines and behaviors within their organization, then the journey begins. The journey must start with the starter kata routines outlined in the 4-step model. Once these starter kata have been embedded, then there is no reason why the organization cannot develop its own bespoke kata for their organization. The goal here is creating a scientific thinking culture that becomes part of the normal day-to-day work. Adopting kata may be a new way of working. It will change the culture of the organization to some extent. The focus on committed employees working on collective objectives takes time. Learning and having the freedom to make quick decisions is crucial, with leaders and employees having to adjust their ways of working to make kata work. However, the rewards will outweigh the risks. Invest NI Operational Excellence Solutions team. If you would like help or advice on anything we have covered throughout this webinar, please email the Operational Excellence team, opexquery@investni.com. The Operational Excellence team can help improve the productivity, profitability, and competitiveness of your business through a wide range of principles, tools, and techniques. Whether it's a practical problem solving or workflow improvement that you need assistance with or strategy deployment, we will tailor our support to help. Take care and thank you for watching.
Okay, so before we move on to our Q&A session, there will be an evaluation question on screen. We appreciate if you answer that question to give us some feedback. Okay, so Simon, Our first question today is there a workshop to help us develop our leaders and teams in CADA?
Yes, Kathy, back in the start of 2020, before we get hit by the pandemic, myself and John, another member of the team, had put together a workshop. Now, we trialed this workshop at a company in Northern Ireland. I think it went down very, very well. It was, I suppose what we did was we split them into two teams. We introduced the storyboards. I suppose the goal was to give them a flavour and an understanding of the improvement kata, how to get through the improvement kata. We had a puzzle, an animal farm puzzle, Ravensburger, you called it. And I suppose the goal was to try and do that in 15 seconds. So the teams tried to understand what were the key obstacles to get into that. So they did iterative PDA cycles, and they then recorded the information on their storyboard. I acted as the coach for both teams, going through the 5 coaching questions to try and understand where they were in terms of their thinking. I think, and I see one of the questions there is like, how do we stop our supervisors jumping to solutions? Well, CADA is about developing that mindset and those routines that you get through those coaching questions and coaching cycles systematically to get an understanding of where their thinking is with regards to the problem. I suppose the goal of the coach when we did the workshop was to provide corrective procedural advice. So if we thought they were going in the wrong direction, we got them to think about that, reflect about that, and then maybe put trial and error. But yes, we did have a workshop, and it did work well.
Okay, and sorry, just apologies. We're having some technical issues, so we're going to keep our cameras off for this Q&A session. Okay, Simon, question 2: is CADA different to problem solving, or do you use it in problem solving process?
No, it's not. The engine that drives CADA is the same as the engine that drives Six Sigma, A3, and all continuous improvement methodologies. It's the PDCA approach: plan, do, check, and act. Where it becomes, where the CADA comes into its own is the using the coaching CADA and following the process steps to get the learner to change their neural pathways, to get them to understand that they're following a procedure here to help them get to root cause.
Okay, our next question is, can CADA coaching be used with daily management meetings, project planning, A3, and any other continuous improvement methodologies?
Absolutely, 110%. A3s, daily management meetings, any project without the coaching element will not sustain the gain. So coming back to the 5 questions again, when we're working with the leader that's in charge of that board or the leader that's running that project, once we get clarity, once we understand that they're aligned to the challenge that they're working on, they have a very clear understanding of their target condition and what's actually happening now. Absolutely, these are this coaching CADA and improvement CADA are absolutely well suited to those activities.
Okay, our next question is, in my environment, it is very difficult to stop the operators and supervisors jumping to solutions. How do I get them to stop this and follow the CADA approach?
Like there's I suppose if you think of the roles and responsibilities, in and around CADA, they talk about the second coach, they talk about the first coach, and they talk about the learner. So all 3 are learning. The first coach and the second coach should have practice the improvement CADA beforehand so that they understand it, so that they can coach the learner. So when we're jumping to solutions, you don't. This drives you not to jump to a solution. This drives you to experiment, small iterative PDCA cycles. Now the coach is there, the first coach is there to guide the learner to make sure that they are following the process. As I said a minute ago, this is about developing new habits, new behaviors, understanding and really understanding what's happening within that process and what's going wrong. The second coach, he's there to sort of help the first coach to make sure that they're following following the process. But yeah, the goal is to follow the process, and following the process will mean that you don't jump to conclusions or to solutions immediately.
Okay. Is there an easy or quick way to get started with CATA coaching, or do I need to consider a longer term approach?
I think we talked about, we mentioned at the start there in terms of the workshop that we are willing to provide to help develop those knowledge, skills and behaviours within the team. I think that's the first place to start. They talk about CATA coaching, and the implementation of CATA coaching is about going narrow and deep. Pick a constraint, pick an area that you know you're having a problem, and then develop those knowledge, skills and behaviours through the improvement and coaching CATA on that particular constraint. But ultimately, this should be part of a long-term strategy. You know, why would you not at all levels of the organisation have a standard way to improve your business? Developing a common language, a language that everybody is aware of and understands, is a fantastic way to help achieve your competitive advantage.
Okay. How does the Toyota CATA help your team achieve goals?
Absolutely. I suppose there's a similar theme running through here. You know, PDCA, scientific thinking, developing those behaviours and following that process to be able to understand through experimentation what's actually happening in your process is the right way to get to root cause and the right way to achieve your goals. I know we all talk about firefighting, okay? So and the reason firefighting, I suppose there's a paradigm shift from the traditional command and control management to leaders as coaches and developing a CI mindset here. I think that this is what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, and great presentation. What are the next steps?
I suppose that we're in our infancy here as well. Probably our threshold of knowledge, and we talk about the threshold of knowledge, is where you only know. I suppose the next steps, from my perspective, is to work with some companies on developing the infrastructure in and around this, thinking about what is the constraint, thinking about the storyboards, thinking about getting people trained up and the improvement and the coaching CATA, potentially using the Ravensburger puzzle that we did before. I suppose, so be up to the company maybe to through the OPEX query to send through a request for this maybe to happen. But look, I suppose ultimately, and I think we're saying this no matter what when we engage with companies, our role is to help a company achieve the productivity uplift. So if we understand the direction of challenge, if we understand the constraint, if we have people that we've identified that we want to develop their knowledge, skills and behaviors, well, that is a good place to start, and then get us involved to help move that forward.
Okay, and our last question then is, can you outline any key differences from PDCA on its own?
Can I outline any key difference to PDCA? Well, there's on this here. This follows the PDCA methodology: plan, do, check, act, developed by Sheard and Deming. It's ingrained in a lot of the problem-solving tools. There's no massive major difference. The major difference for me is that you have a first coach, a second coach, and you are providing corrective procedural inputs to the learner to make sure that they are following the process. And scientific thinking, but it's the coaching element that gives you the biggest bang from your buck. Look, I mean, visible felt leadership, leaders as coaches, call it whatever you want. We're trying to move away from that whole command and control, that whole I'm scared to make a mistake approach to let's do small iterative PDCAs to understand. My working hypothesis could be that it is the other department. So it is the design department that is creating all the problems, or it's the stores not delivering in time, or it's purchasing department that's creating the problem. So that's your working hypothesis. You want to go off and test that and validate that. You do that through PDCA. Okay, you follow that procedure, and quite quickly you'll figure out whether it is either a problem or it's not a problem. So you've learned something, and you've increased your threshold of knowledge.
Okay, thank you, Simon. So that's all the questions addressed. Apologies again with no video, with some technical problems, but hope you were able to hear the questions, the answers okay. If you had any further information, please contact our OpEx query inbox. Thank you for taking the time to participate on our Toyota CATA webinar. Thank you.